All right, it has now been officially 328 days since the special counsel Robert Mueller was appointed to investigate so-called Russian interference into our elections. All right, tonight we're still asking the question, where is any evidence of collusion? Show us. Nothing so far, not a whiff, nothing, no evidence. Now, instead of concrete facts, information surrounding Russia's illicit actions, we now have in this country what is a runaway investigation. It's spinning out of control. It's led by Mueller and his merry band of Trump-hating deep state sycophants. That's just a fact. Now, we have gone from the prosecution of Paul Manafort over years-old payments from Ukraine, not Russia, to now an investigation into alleged affairs between Trump and a porn star named Stormy Daniels. You can't make this up. And now today we're learning from reports that FBI agents during the Cohn raid, they're actually looking for information about payments made to a former Playboy playmate, Karen McDougal. Does anyone actually believe that a porn star and a former Playboy playmate, that they're going to shed any light on potential collusion with Russia? The answer is of course not. Robert Mueller is now officially gone rogue and declared war against the president. And big news tonight, according to reports, Stormy Daniels, CNN will be so proud. They're now cooperating with Robert Mueller in his probe. Now, of course, this rogue activity from Mueller, it's nothing new. Remember back in March, former Trump political advisor Sam Nunberg, he said Mueller was seeking information regarding Michael Cohen's payments, yep, you got it, to Stormy Daniels. So much for Russian interference.
Did Mueller's folks ask anything that related to these issues around payments to people or women?
Well, look, they asked if I had ever heard anything about that, and my answer is I never have. I don't know anything about it, and I wouldn't have known anything about it.
All right, so sadly, tonight what's happening is Mueller's runaway train of an investigation is something we have now been warning you about for over a year. I've told you there are 5 forces actively working against Donald Trump. They have from the beginning. It is your corrupt media, the corrupt Democratic Party that doesn't care about the American people, weak establishment Republicans, never Trumpers. They want to be proven right, and what we describe as the deep state. And tonight you have 2 of those 5 forces working together to malign the president you elected. Now, we did some digging today, and what did we find? There's a lot of reports you've been hearing about the inner workings of the Mueller investigation. They include a lot of anonymous sources. In fact, some of these reports are totally based on anonymous sourcing. So who are all these anonymous people feeding all this information to their friends in the liberal media? Now, could it be that Mueller's team is actually coordinating with the liberal media, these outlets, to turn public opinion against President Trump? That helps their case. Now, maybe Mueller's office and their emails, maybe they'll get raided in pre-dawn hours. Maybe we'll see that happen. Now, clearly, the corrupt media and Mueller, knowing there's no collusion, there's no evidence of collusion. If they had it, we would know it by now. They're hoping that President Trump actually fires Mueller. And without a doubt, like Sarah Sanders said today, the president does have actually the legal right to fire Mueller. But we know if the president does, imagine the political outcry, what it would be like. It would be massive. In fact, this is likely exactly what many in these 5 forces I talk about want, because they believe it would spark, the humiliating end of the Trump presidency that we, the people, voted for. After all, that's been their goal from the get-go. We've always known that. And in their minds, this would set President Trump up to be impeached. And the sad truth tonight is while Mueller is on this witch hunt fishing expedition, it is abundantly clear that if Trump fires Mueller, sadly, nothing will go away. The truth is it'll only get worse. It'll only get louder. We'll only become more divided. Nothing will get done in the country. It doesn't matter, it appears, how rogue Robert Mueller is. Doesn't matter what he did with Whitey Bulger in Boston and 4 innocent people that went to jail. 2 died in jail because an FBI informant in his office that was working with Mueller and his team. And then after 2 died, there was over $100 million paid out in that case. It doesn't seem to matter to anybody in the liberal media that Mueller's pit bull, as described by the New York Times, Andrew Weissman, that he was involved in tens of thousands of people losing their jobs, their careers at Arthur Andersen Accounting. Doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter. The Supreme Court overturned Weissman, Mueller's pit bull, 9-0. How often does that happen? It doesn't matter that 4 Merrill executives went to jail for a year because of Weissman and that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned their convictions. And it doesn't seem to matter that courts have excoriated Mueller's pit bull Weissman for withholding exculpatory evidence. And it doesn't matter that Mueller's team almost exclusively donated money to Obama, to Hillary, and to the DNC. After all, why would Robert Mueller hire a guy like Andrew Weissman with that atrocious track record? Why was he ever appointed? The answer is it was a fishing expedition, and it was an effort to get Trump from the beginning. So now we're stuck with a never-ending, what seems to be out-of-control investigation. The great one, Mark Levin, he's had it. He's now calling for the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to be held accountable. Without his recusal, we wouldn't be here. That's just a fact. Take a listen.
I want to make a point here, not intended to be provocative or controversial, and it will destroy a 30-year friendship. It'll destroy it. But I really do think it's time for the Attorney General to step aside. The buck stops on the Attorney General's desk. Even if he recused himself as he did on the Russia matter, this is not the Russia matter.
Don't we save raids for, let's say, drug dealers and criminals and, organized crime and potential terrorists? Apparently not. So without a doubt, Sessions' recusal, the appointment of the now rogue special counsel by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who's out of control himself and conflicted out of this case, why he didn't have to recuse is another question. It just is a clear example of what I've been warning about, a two-tiered justice system in this country. Now, the president's longtime personal attorney, Michael Cohen, had his home, his hotel, and, of course, his office raided by the FBI, over $130,000 payment as the personal attorney of Donald Trump to Stormy Daniels. And what people are not understanding here is when the special counsel raids the offices of the president's private attorney, Mueller is now basically backdoored his way into every single Trump business deal, at least since Michael Cohen has worked with Donald Trump. Want to take bets on what Mueller and Weissman are looking for? Because I have a pretty good idea tonight. Now, this is an unprecedented abuse of power. It needs to be countered, and countered immediately. The president should add to his team of top-notch lawyers a communications team, top-notch communication skills, and frankly, the president needs to immediately start advancing the truth about who Robert Mueller is, what his mandate was, how far beyond his mandate is, and about his entire team of Democratic donors. And frankly, any negotiations that were going on with the president talking to Robert Mueller, that should probably likely end if it hasn't already. And the president and his legal team should be preparing to take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court. That's where we are tonight. It's time to investigate the investigators, as we have been doing. We got to investigate his team of partisan witch hunters. They are trying to overturn a duly elected president. If you voted for Donald Trump, you better get buckled up, because this is going to be a rough ride. And by the way, they should probably remind people daily that it appears that there's no longer equal application of our laws in the United States. Let me give you a case in point. Just start with Hillary Clinton. Clearly, she is guilty. Incontrovertible evidence of multiple felonies, mishandling of classified information, destruction of such, obstruction of justice. And if you don't believe me, try deleting one day 33,000 subpoenaed emails, acid washing your hard drive with bleach bit, destroying your cell phones with hammers. And was her home raided? Was a lawyer's home raided? Not a chance. We have a two-tier justice system. What about fired FBI Director James Comey? What about Bruce and Nellie Orr? What about anti-Trump lovebirds Strzok and Page? What about lying Susan Rice? What about Christopher Steele, the foreign national that Fusion GPS hired and funneled the money Hillary did through the law firm, and the foreign national got Russian lies to influence the American people in an election? What about who lied to the FISA court judges? Now, you can see on the side of your screen, there really aren't any anti-Trump officials or entities who have been subject to any of these aggressive tactics. None. And we know Hillary Clinton did commit felonies. Now, how can the American people have faith in their justice system tonight? And according to a report from the New York Times, well, Mueller's investigating President Trump, apparently did a 20-minute speech on Skype in the Ukraine for $150,000 from a Ukrainian national. Okay, good money if you can make it. Well, guess what? Well, there's no New York Times report that that same Ukrainian national gave the Clintons $13 million. No outrage, no coverage from the New York Times. And talk about hypocrisy. Well, you won't believe this. Today, the FBI, they actually notified Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton is on the show a lot, that it's going to take 3 long years to turn over requested communications between anti-Trump FBI agents Strzok and Page. 3 years? Can you say two-tier justice system? Now, a notorious high-ranking Soviet official, he once said, "Show me the man, I'll find you the crime." It sounds familiar to Mueller's never-ending investigation way beyond his mandate. This concept is wholly un-American, and it's very dangerous to our system of justice. It's dangerous to the Constitution if you believe in the rule of law. So tonight I'm saying, okay, game on. If somebody hits you, it's time to fight back, and it needs to come to an end. All right, we have to turn our attention to the media tonight. And as you can imagine, the Destroy Trump media, they are salivating. They're so hopeful that their lying narrative will be covered up now by Stormy Daniels, now with the news regarding Michael Cohen. One particularly unhinged so-called journalist, her name is April Ryan, and literally has taken Trump hatred to a whole new level. Listen to what she asked Sarah Sanders earlier today at the White House briefing. You won't believe it.
With all of this turmoil, particularly this last week, has the president at any time thought about stepping down before or now?
No, and I think that's an absolutely ridiculous question.
It's not ridiculous.
I gave you two questions,
ridiculous.
April. We're moving on. Jordan, go ahead.
It's not ridiculous.
Really, April? Is that what the White House briefing? That's a real appropriate time to sort of push your inner political fantasies here? Now, I'm sure you're making probably your boss, fake news head, Jeff Zucker, really proud of you and your job today. Now, we're going to bring you more outrageous examples of the media's hysteria later in the show. But first, we are tonight monitoring this situation that's going on and ongoing in Syria, as the president now is expected to respond with force to the recent gas attacks that we know took place there. We've seen the images. Now, make no mistake, President Trump is a man of his word. And is the United States supposed to stand by and watch Assad using chemical weapons on men, women, and children? Should that go unanswered? Now, sadly, the same could not be said for President Obama when he was on the world stage. Remember, he drew a line in the sand. You might have forgotten because he did nothing.
We have communicated in no uncertain terms with every player in the region that that's a red line for us, and that there would be enormous consequences if we start seeing movement on the chemical weapons front or the use of chemical weapons. That would change my calculations significantly.
And after Assad crossed that red line and continued to gas his own people, remember when the Obama administration, they struck a deal. John Kerry told us 100% of those chemical weapons were going to be removed from Syria. And then they declared diplomatic victory. You might remember.
We were able to find a solution that actually removed the chemical weapons that were known from Syria in a way that the use of force would never have accomplished.
Russia has been constructive in helping to remove 100% of the declared chemical weapons from Syria. In fact, that was an agreement we made months ago, and it never faltered, even during these moments of conflict.
People may criticize us for not having launched missiles against Assad after chemical weapons had been used, but keep in mind why we didn't. We didn't because they got rid of the chemical weapons. And that, in fact, was very important.
Wishful thinking or willful ignorance. Either way, even former Secretary of State under Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright, was calling out Obama's Middle East failure. Take a look.
Donald Trump says this is Barack Obama's fault because the first time this happened, Barack Obama did not use military action against Assad's regime. Do you think he's right about that?
No, I don't. I mean, I do wish Barack Obama did put down a red line, and I personally wish that we had followed through on that.
Can America stand by as innocent men, women, and children are being gassed? What should happen? Now, of course, I'm not talking about in any way an invasion of any kind, but Assad, those weapons have to be removed. When America's promises are empty and its leaders are weak and ineffective like Obama, we see what happens. Chaos, death, destruction, and the world becomes less safe. We do have some good news tonight that you probably won't hear about in the mainstream media. Yeah, Donald Trump strikes again after weeks of tough talks and predictions that China's never going to negotiate on trade. Yeah, the president of China has now announced his country plans to significantly lower certain tariffs on automobiles, which is good for American workers, and that they'd be working towards preserving intellectual property rights of Americans, which is another good thing. Two key concessions that the Trump administration was seeking. Good news for American business, good news for our auto industry. And earlier today, the president reached out to the president of China on Twitter. He wrote, quote, very thankful for the president of China's kind words on tariffs and automobile barriers. Also also his enlightenment on intellectual property and technology transfers. We will make great progress together. And also tonight, the Facebook CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, he was grilled on Capitol Hill today. He faced 44 senators, 2 different committees. We'll have more on that later in the show.